Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining in today's webinar. It's such a delight to see each of you here. And yeah, so today we will be doing sustainable living. And we are so privileged to have Eunice Ogada with us this afternoon to teach us on how we can live sustainable lives. And it's such a privilege to have her during this session. So thank you so much for joining me on time, and we will just get right into it. So Eunice, thank you, and you're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you everyone for coming, and thank you for having me. Today's topic is how to live at ease and not with dis-ease. For those like Joanne who know me, they know this is my mantra. This is what I live by. This is what I encourage and teach my clients to live by, because there's no point of living 100 years if 50 of those years will be lived in pain, in struggle. You wake up in the morning, everything hurts. You can't sleep at night because everything hurts. Painkillers are not helping because you're taking a cocktail of drugs. That's not what we call quality of life. In my book, that's not what quality of life is. That's why we are talking about it today, because we want to make sure that you understand what it takes to live at ease and not with dis-ease. But I will just introduce myself, just because I know it's my first time with meeting most of you. So my name is Eunice Ogada. I am first and foremost a servant of God. I am a born-again Christian. I am doing life with Jesus, and I am not scared to say it in any place, because that is exactly what I'm doing, and I'm not ashamed of it. I'm a wife. This is Mr. Ogada. I'm a mother. I have 2 boys. They were much younger here. Now they are 6, almost 7 next week, and 4. So they are keeping me very busy. We're on school holidays. So yes, life is busy with them around, but we thank God. From a professional background, I come from a physiotherapy background. I was born and bred in Kenya. I went to primary school and high school in Kenya. I wanted to be a medical doctor, so I came to UK to do medicine until I got here, and they told me that it was going to cost me about £42,000 per year. So that in Kenyan shillings is almost like 6-7 million per year, something like that. So I was like, okay, I can't afford it, so I better do something else. So I did physiotherapy. I did an undergraduate in physiotherapy. I did 2 and postgraduates in physiotherapy. But because my vision and my passion was about helping people to live well, live at ease and not with disease, I still wanted to pursue how I can help people do that. So I did that by training in functional medicine. Functional medicine is very different from conventional medicine or allopathic medicine, which is what the doctors practice, because the current model of healthcare looks at you, the symptoms you have, and so they give you a drug to enable you to live with the disease. So if you have diabetes, they'll give you metformin, they'll give you gliclazide, they'll give you whatever they need to give you to live with the disease and manage the symptoms. Functional medicine doesn't do that. Functional medicine actually looks at, first of all, why do you have diabetes? Why did your body develop diabetes? What is it about your body that made diabetes able to thrive and grow and develop there? So that's what functional medicine is. So that's what I practice. I practice functional medicine. I have a few awards. You can check them out on my Insta or my social medias, and I am certified. Now, so that's just me and what I do. Pablo Picasso said, the meaning of life is to find your gifts, and the purpose of life is to give it away. That's why I'm here, to give my gift of knowledge to you, because an apple doesn't eat its fruit. So I'm here to give you this gift. I'm here to gift it away, the knowledge that I have, because we've mastered our businesses, we've mastered our jobs, but have we mastered our health? Have we mastered our body, our physical body, our mental health? Have we mastered our health to make our lifespan equal our health span? Why do we need to talk about this? Why do I talk about it? I talk about it because, like I said, we are dealing with a healthcare system that is not really healthcare, it's sick care. It's sick care because there's no money in healthy people, there's no money in dead people, there's money in sick people. So the sick people, if they continue to remain sick and they continue to be on all this medication, there's somebody who's benefiting from it. Big Pharma is benefiting from it. Sometimes even the doctors are benefiting from it because they are not paid for every disease they cured. They are paid for how many times they saw you. So every time you go and see your doctor, you pay a consultation fee, and you pay a fee for anything that they subscribe to you or prescribe to you, or they advise. You pay for the advice. You pay for even just being there. Like I know in Kenya especially, you pay for everything, even just like attending the appointment. You're almost paying for that. Even if you don't get seen, you probably almost end up being charged just for showing up, right? Your body will give you what you put into it. How well you take care of it, your body will reward you. You will reap what you sow. So if you're sowing healthy habits every day, you will reap a healthy life. You will reap a healthy body. You will reap not just a summer body that looks good, but a lifetime body that looks good, feels good, and functions well. That's what we need to focus on. It's about trying to get you to understand that the greatest doctor for you is you. So you hold the power. So don't give away your power. Don't give away your power by letting marketing and branding influence what you put in your body and on your body. And as a result, you get a negative health outcome out of it. It's about understanding that you hold the power and you can change this. It's not allowing yourself to be used as a cash cow for the big pharma, for the big agriculture, for the big food, and not allowing yourself to live with the disease and just manage the symptoms, but actually understanding that you can prevent the disease before it forms, and you can reverse a disease if it has already formed. But you have to understand, how did it come? And that's why I always talk about metabolic health. Metabolic health is basically inside out health. What is the health of your cell? What is your health from a cellular perspective? How is your cell functioning? Is it functioning well? Can it make energy? Can you do what you want, when you want, how you want, with whom you want, however you want? Can you do that? Can you do that today? Can you do that the next 10 years? Can you do that the next 50 years? Can you do that the next 80 years and beyond? So we're not talking about just metabolic health only today. We're talking about metabolic health throughout our lifespan. That's why I say your health span must equal your lifespan, because we are talking about having good metabolic health. So it's looking at, how does your body function? It functions through your cells. Your cells make your organs make your systems make your body. So it's not looking at it from one angle. It's not looking at it with a tunnel vision, because right now in health, you go to a gynecologist, a urologist, a dermatologist, a cardiologist, hematologist. Everything is an ologist. It's in parts. But actually, you're not in parts. You are one whole person with all these systems that need to work together. And if one system is out of sync, if one system is dysfunctional, it has a knock-on effect on every other system that you have in your body, so that you are actually able to work, they are able to work well. So if one affects them, all of them will be affected and they will not work well. So one dysfunction in one system has an impact on everything else. So we cannot just look at your health from one ologist. One ologist is not enough, because one ologist will affect all the other ologists. Why is it that people are becoming sicker and sicker every day? Why is it that people are experiencing the symptoms they're experiencing? Those are the things that we're going to be exploring today. Why are we not responding to medical treatment? And is it really medical treatment, or is it symptom management? The technology has really developed so much. But despite the increase in the technology, why is it that we are still getting more and more unhealthy, more and more? People are dying younger. Actually, 63% of people die young and in pain. 63% of people. Despite the fact that because of the technology that is there, they are telling us that now people are living longer. Yes, people are living longer, but also 63% of those people who should have lived longer are dying young and in pain. Among the roots of those things that are causing people to die young and in pain is something called insulin resistance. Now, insulin is a hormone in your body. And I left this slide on because as I'm talking to you, most of you are in Kenya. Most of us, not most of us, I would think all of us here are of Black ethnicity and Black origin. We are African, so we are Black, right? And the amount of diseases that we are suffering are even greater than other communities. We are suffering hypertension, 2 to 4 times greater risk of hypertension. Diabetes, we are even getting diagnosed at a much younger age with a much lower body mass index. Sickle cell is very, very prevalent in African countries. They say that because of malaria, there's a link between sickle cell and malaria, because of course our country has more malaria. There is a link to that. But still, you find that we suffer more with that than other populations do. We're having more strokes. We have more asthma. We have more infections like hepatitis C, HIV, and AIDS. I think we can all agree on that. When COVID happened, although COVID didn't affect the African countries as much, but actually the Black people in the Western world were actually affected so much more. They were really, really affected, especially the Black men. They were 3.4 times more likely to die than the white people, right? So when you look at it, you realize that there's so much discrepancies, and we need to call ourselves together and actually ask ourselves, what is it that is putting us at risk of having such a higher risk of these diseases? And actually, they didn't always used to be like that. Our ancestors did not suffer the diseases that we are suffering today. But why? Because we have adopted the Western lifestyle. We have neglected the lifestyle, the traditional lifestyle, the foods that we used to eat, the kind of lifestyle that our ancestors lived. And we have adopted the Western lifestyle where we want everything at a convenience. You know, everything is now on the click of a button. Everything is on your phone. Food is on your phone. You will get delivered to your house. You don't have to even get out and go and get it, right? But is it really food, or is it food like substances that we are getting delivered to our doors? When you look at the risks for things like cancers, breast cancer, prostate cancer, colorectal cancer, in my city, we buried 2 people 2 months ago, 2 men, they were in their early 50s with colorectal cancer. We buried a lady with cardiovascular disease. She went to work and died at work. Right? So when we're talking about these things, we're talking about these things that we are seeing, they are affecting us every day. All these types of cancer, they are on the increase in our population. Why? Insulin resistance. So when we talk about insulin resistance, understand that the problem is actually getting worse. It is not getting better, it is getting worse. When we look at the COVID and how it affected like the men versus the women, you see they got significantly higher wave. This is the first wave in the lighter green. Look at the Black African man, how much they were affected. Why? The answer to that, it lies down in our metabolic health. Because unfortunately, our metabolic health is gotten worse. It has gone down. The women are not so far off if you compare with other communities. Look at our women here. We are still topping the charts, but the COVID affected the men a lot. And it's something that we have to think about, because majority of the time you tend to find that when we talk about health, it's more the women. Like if you look at the people on here today, there is more women than there are men. Why? Because we women are much more proactive in looking after our health. And I would think that is just my conclusion and my assumption, that this is why we didn't get as affected as the men did. Because the men have underlying metabolic issues, but because they never really pay much attention to it, they don't do anything about it. And so when it hits them, that's when they start realizing that, oh, I had this and this and this and this going on, and I did not know. Whereas the women, we are more in tune with our bodies, we pay much more attention to our bodies, and we tend to do something about it, as much as we, based on the knowledge that we have. When you look at, in terms of things like weight gain, you realize that even in our children, this was done in school, primary school children. You can see here, they're just joining school in reception. And here, they're in year 6. Look at the Black community. This is us. Look at how much our children are gaining weight. By the time they get to year 6, this is, in this country, year 6 is just the year before. It's like class 8 before you go to high school. They're in the old 844 system. Here, they are gaining a lot of weight. By the time they are getting to year 6, they have significantly gained a lot of weight. Look, they are topping the charts in all this. Why? Because as a parent, I have to take responsibility for the health of my child, because my child eats what I cook, right? I am the one who is directing and leading my child to a healthy lifestyle. So as a parent, I have to look at my child's health and take responsibility for it. So what is it? It made me look at these numbers, and I realized there has to be an issue here. Either we are lacking some knowledge, or we are being negligent, we are being ignorant, because why is it that we are the ones that are topping the charts? And we can't just say it's genetics, because your genes load the gun. Your lifestyle pulls the trigger. So we can't really point it out on the genetics. We have to look at our lifestyle. How are we living the life? This is a study that was done in America. They looked at the American population. And the reason I bring it, and I know most of us are Kenyan, but like I said, we have now left our traditional lifestyle, and we have now adopted a Western lifestyle. So whatever is happening in America is happening everywhere in the world, because we have adopted the Western lifestyle. They looked at this population of 240 million people. They looked at the people who were obese, who you can look at their bodies and say, oh my God, yes, this person is obese and overweight. And they were only 30% of the population. And they looked at the people who were in the normal weight. They were 70% of the population. Out of the 30%, they looked at how many people are actually sick and have a lot of health issues as a result of being obese or overweight. And they found that only 80% of these 30 people, and that was 57 million people, were sick. So if you take 72 million and take out 57, you realize that there is a 20% of obese but metabolically healthy people. They are obese, yes, but actually metabolic health-wise, they are fine. They are not growing disease. They don't have any diseases. They are fine. But note that that's only 20%. So don't walk away saying that I think I'm in that metabolically obese category. If you have any extra weight on you, you need to really look at your health and understand, do I have any symptoms that would suggest that I am in that category or not in that category? But this is what I want us to pay attention to. The people with normal weight, 40% of these 70 were sick. They had metabolic dysfunction. So 67 million, even greater than the people who are actually obese. So a total of the sick people is 124 million people who are sick. Why? Because people think that the only way you can be sick is if you're very, very obese and overweight. It's not the case. There's something called toffee. Thin on the outside, fat on the inside. This is what I mean. These are three different people. This is a fat MRI fraction. This is somebody who is obese. But if you look at their liver, this is their liver. You can see it's black because it does not contain a lot of fat. Their liver fat percentage is only 2.6. This is what we call metabolically healthy obese people. They are overweight, yes. What do they have? Love handles. Love handles are not attractive to look at. Aesthetically, they're not pleasing. But love handles will not kill you. What will kill you is this liver fat here. Can you see their liver here? It's all white. Why? Because their liver fat is 24%. So and you can see here, they also have quite a bit of love handles. So this is a metabolically unhealthy obese person. Yes, they are overweight, but also they have a high liver fat, which makes them at risk of very many diseases. This is a thin person. They don't have any love handles. You can see the difference here. These are love handles. This is the subcutaneous fat. They have very little subcutaneous fat. But look at their liver. It's equally as bad as this person here who is actually obese, but this person is very, very thin. This is what we call thin on the outside, fat on the inside. They are thin on the outside. When you look at them, they are very slim and petite, but on the inside, it's not the same case. They have a fatty liver. Their liver fat is 23%. So don't conclude that I'm metabolically healthy because I am slim. It's not the case. That is not the measure. And that's why I am always saying to people, don't look at health from an outside-in perspective. This is how to look at your health. What are the metabolic health markers that you need to know about? A waist circumference of over 40 inches for men, and a waist circumference of over 35 inches for women. So if you are outside of those numbers, then you know that you are not hitting that metabolic health marker. You need to do something about that, because that is an indication of that visceral fat that we were talking about. If you have high triglycerides, over 150 milligrams per deciliters, or you're already taking medication for high triglycerides, that is another indication. If you have low, high density lipoprotein, which is what we call HDL, some people will say that good cholesterol. For women, it should be under 50 milligrams per deciliter. For men, it should be under 40 milligrams per deciliter, right? That would be, if yours is low, it's under that number, then you know that you have some work to do. If you have high blood pressure, a high blood pressure of 130/85, greater than that, then you're already taking medication, then you know that metabolically, you're not healthy. If you have fasting blood glucose, because unfortunately, our systems don't check our insulin, even though that is the right measure, they only test our glucose. The reason they test glucose is because they have drugs that manage the glucose that they can give you. They don't have drugs that they can give you for insulin. So why would they want to measure something and then they can't give you a drug for? Because everything comes down to being able to prescribe something to you that you can take for the rest of your life, because it's a subscription model. Like I said, there's no money in healthy people because they don't need to take any drugs. They don't need any consultations with medics. And there's no money in dead people because you're dead, you're dead. The money is in the sick people. So if you are in that category, they want to only make sure that they only check and test the things that they can be able to give you a drug for. And that's why they will test the glucose rather than testing the insulin. But if you're taking medication for high blood pressure, if you have any three of these, we say that you have what we call metabolic syndrome, and your risk for mortality or death increases significantly, and your risk for having other diseases increases significantly. And if you have a high fasting glucose, it also means that you have what we call insulin resistance, and I'll mention that name, but I will talk about it a bit more. Now, I want to give you an illustration of what insulin does. Insulin is a hormone. It acts like a key. Now, if you think about your keys, you have a bunch of keys, right? This bunch of keys, this key unlocks my office. But the same shape of this key is the same shape that my key for my front door and my back door looks like this. But when I put it in, it can go in, but it can't turn the lock. It can't actually unlock or lock the complex. Yeah, the lock and key complex. But insulin has receptors everywhere in the body from top to bottom, because insulin allows your cells to take in the glucose from the food you ate, or to take in the fat, either from the fat you ate or the fat that you stored as love handles or bingo wings, or in those hips or in the breasts, the parts that we store all this fat, or the fat that is in the visceral fat that is a ticking time bomb, right? So it unlocks your cells, allows the glucose to come in or the fat to come in, fatty acids to come in, and then your cells have this energy factory called mitochondria, and they then oxidize the oxygen that you breathe in. That's its job. They oxidize the glucose and convert that into energy. And that way, you're able to do your job in protecting and fighting for your clients like you do in court or on paper, out of court, because I believe most of you are in the legal background. So insulin has a role in the whole of your body, but that's when insulin is working well. Everything requires energy. All your cells in the body require energy. So the food you eat is converted into energy for you to hear, for you to see, for your heart to beat, for your muscles to move, for your liver to detoxify your body, for you to reproduce with your sex organs, for your bones to develop and to work the way they should, for your nerves, for your brain, for everything. Insulin promotes dilation of your blood vessels. And the reason it does that is to promote more blood flow, because the glucose that you are getting into the cells is in the blood. That's how it gets transported from to every part of the body that requires it. So insulin has many functions. It's needed for a lot of things in the body. And that's why we have receptors everywhere in the body. But when we look at insulin and how it affects your liver, it has two main jobs where the liver is concerned. Number one, it dictates the fuel use. So when you eat that ugali, will you use that ugali to convert it into energy, or will you use that ugali to store it as fat? Insulin dictates that. It also dictates the availability of glucose to the cells, because remember I said it's the key that is unlocking the door. If I came to your house and I knocked on the door, you have to unlock the door and let me in. If insulin doesn't unlock the door and let the glucose in, your body now becomes deficient of energy, because the body needs the raw materials to make that energy. That energy has to come from somewhere. It has to come into the cell. So, but if the door is not unlocked, how can it get that energy when it's not coming in? And that's where we have to understand that this is the role of insulin. When we say that insulin dictates which energy will be used, when insulin is high, your body, then it dictates that your body should be utilizing the carbohydrates that you've been eating. And so you get very little use of fat and a lot of carbohydrate is being burned, because your body is like a hybrid car. It can burn glucose and it can burn fat. You know, like a hybrid car has electricity and petrol or diesel. So in our case, the fat would be the electricity, the carbs would be the diesel or the petrol, because that burns dirty, right? But when your insulin goes down, now it dictates to the body that now you need to now switch to fat burning. So if your insulin is high, you burn carbohydrates. If your insulin is low, you burn fat. That fat that you stored in those love handles, so it's waiting for a rainy day to come. So the rainy day only comes if insulin is low. And that is when the fat gets utilized. When you eat your food, your body will convert that into glucose, and then the insulin will help with the dilation of the blood vessels to allow that to go through. If you have high levels of insulin in the body, if you are very, very stressed, if you have high levels of inflammation, those are the things that will cause you to become insulin resistant. If you eat all the time, because every time you eat, your brain sends a message to your pancreas to say that food has come in, therefore, increase the production of insulin to enable the insulin to reduce the blood glucose in the blood, to get it into the cells so that the cells can utilize that to make energy. So the system works excellently when it's working well. If it's not working well, this is where now the problems come. The factors that would make you become more at risk of having insulin resistance would be if you are obese and overweight. Why? Because how do you become obese and overweight? We say that when insulin is high, you are now using carbohydrates, and if you are eating all the time, it means that there is excess in the body, and the body can only convert that into fat to store it, because it has to get it out of the system. It has to get it out of your blood circulation, so it converts it into fat. So if you are overweight and obese, it already is a sign that your insulin is already too high. You have hyperinsulinemia. If you keep taking on a high sugar, high carbohydrate diet, that then means you're spiking your insulin high. And if that's the kind of meals that you're eating all the time, it means that your insulin just never gets the chance to come down. It constantly stays high. If you have a sedentary lifestyle, like most of you work in legal, so you get in the office, you sit all day. Sitting is the new smoking. The negative effects you used to get from smoking, and I say used because now not as many people smoke, but the negative effects that come with smoking are the same negative effects that come with sitting. I have a standing desk. This is a standing desk. I sit, I stand. I was standing all morning, so I decided let me sit down to do this, just so that I'm a bit more settled. But you will need to make sure that you're moving during the day. And if you're sat in an office desk all day and you go home and sit on your sofa all evening, then you sleep, and then next morning you repeat, you're not utilizing your muscles. Your muscle is the #1 user of glucose in your body. It uses, in fact, your muscles need so much glucose that they even have their own reserve. They don't even need to depend on the liver for the energy, for the glucose to come. They have their own glycogen reserve. They can convert that glycogen into energy immediately. That's why if we chase you here and you run, your muscles are able to activate quickly, create that energy, and you're able to leg it as fast as Usain Bolt. If you are chronically stressed, when stress levels, cortisol levels goes up, insulin also goes up, because when you're stressed, your body is telling you it's fight or flight. If you have to fight or you have to flight, what do you need? Energy. So the insulin must also come up to enable the energy to go in to do the job of providing the raw material for the energy to fight or to flight. So if you're constantly stressed all the time and your body's cortisol levels never go down, your insulin levels will also stay high. The more the insulin levels stay high, now your body becomes resistant to it. Your body doesn't like too much of something, and it doesn't like too little of something. It just likes balance, just right. Yeah, your body is a perfectionist. It wants it just right. Not too high, not too low, just right. So if your stress levels are high, it means your insulin stays high. Now the body doesn't like it. It now finds ways of protecting itself. Because this thing is staying too high for long, let's now become deaf to it so that it does not have an impact on us. So you become resistant to the same insulin that you need for your cells to make energy. You're now no longer sensitive to it, so you're not responding to it. So the job that insulin does in your body, they now start being left behind. They are no longer working. Of course, if you're a smoker, smoking increases a lot of inflammation in the body, and inflammation will raise your insulin because your body is trying to fight. It's trying to fight the inflammation. It's trying to fight these effects, the negative effects that are coming as a result of smoking. If you have high blood pressure, if you have issues with sleep, because your body repairs when you sleep at night. So if you're not sleeping, you will have problems. There's going to be problems because that means there's a lot of toxicity in your cells. That increases oxidative stress. Oxidative stress will cause your cells to start dying off. If you are using high doses of steroids for an extended period of time, I don't know if you've ever took steroids or know of somebody who took steroids, they tend to increase their appetite. The steroids tend to increase people's appetite. So of course they start eating frequently, often, and eating a lot. And that raises the insulin. People with Cushing's disease, people with polycystic ovarian syndrome, those are diseases of insulin resistance. So if somebody has that, that's already telling them that they are insulin resistant and they need to do something about it. How does this work? How does your body become insulin resistant? This is a normal body here. I don't know if you can see my cursor. Normal insulin metabolism. You have glucose. This is insulin. Remember, insulin is the key. It goes in, unlocks, and the glucose gets in. And in here, your body makes energy. It's getting the glucose from the bloodstream. So the functioning insulin receptor site, this is the receptor site, because we said that you have insulin receptor sites everywhere in your body because you need it, because you need energy everywhere in your body. If you have a lot of toxins in the body, toxins, they go and they block your receptors. So the insulin is fine. There's nothing wrong with the insulin, but there's something now wrong with the receptor. It's like a lock that somebody has put big G and it has become jammed. You have the right key, but you can't get in. Or the other analogy I can give you is if you came to the house and found the people you live with, your husband, your mom, your dad, or whoever you live with, or your wife, came and got into the house and they didn't remove their key from the inside. You came to the right house, you came to the right address, but you have the right key, but you can't get your key in to unlock the door. Why? Because somebody left their key on the inside, so you can't get in. That is exactly what happens when we have internal starvation, because the lock is not functioning. There's a malfunctioning insulin receptor site, so the glucose can't get in. Can you see how much glucose there is in here? Very few. So what do you start having? You start having fatigue. Why? Because your cells really need energy, but the energy, the raw material to make the energy is not going in. They're starving. There's a starvation because they can't get the raw materials to make energy. Now the glucose is overflowing here. Why? You're still eating. All these other things that should be happening are still happening, but it's not being used. So there's excess. What does the body do? Start converting it into fat. It has to find a way of getting rid of it, because remember, the body doesn't like too much, neither does it like too little. So it has to find a way of dealing with. The best way to deal with it is convert it into fat. Because what will happen here is your body thinks that there is a shortage of insulin. That's why this glucose isn't getting into the cell. So what does it do? It ramps up the production of insulin. So the insulin is going higher and higher and higher because of that. As the insulin is going higher, the glucose is now being stored into fat, because insulin is a storage hormone. It likes everything stored away. It always, this one is the one that likes to save and never use. That's insulin for you. And then on this end, we have the overflow paradigm. This is where you just keep eating all the time. Your cells have more than enough energy. They just can't cope with any extra because they have more than enough. So we have excess because you keep eating all the time. Insulin keeps going up the time. The insulin receptor works just fine, but the cell is full. There's no more space. Like you literally, it's like mtungi. When you put the water and it's full, there's no more water that can go in. It's full, it's full. That is what happens. And now the excess has to now be converted into fat. So this is how now people gain fat. Now, I said earlier that we don't test for insulin, we test for glucose. When you go to your doctors, they will test your glucose. They can test your fasting glucose or their unfasting glucose, or sometimes they can do what we call an oral glucose tolerance test. Most people tend to have that when they are 28 weeks pregnant. So if you've been pregnant, then you know that you had it at week 28. And it's not one of those common tests that you will see that a doctor will just recommend. It's very annoying though, because you have to go and have a blood test, and they give you a very sugary drink. You sit there for 2 hours, and then after 2 hours, they retake the blood test to see what was the effect of that sugary drink and how did your cells respond to that sugary drink. Did they respond well, or did they have a hyper reaction to it, which would then say you have gestational diabetes? So when you go to your doctor and they test your glucose, because they don't test your insulin, they don't see that your insulin is rising and rising and rising. So they keep testing your insulin, but your glucose, and every time they do the test, they tell you that your glucose is normal. Please understand there's a difference between normal and healthy. They tell you that, oh, your glucose is normal, your glucose is normal, your glucose is normal, and then they can do that all this time here. Can you see? Between 0 and 14 years. Up until like 10, 12 years here, your glucose has been in the normal range, but it's been rising gradually. All this time, you've been insulin resistant until you get to a point where your pancreas now can no longer cope with such high demand of production of insulin. So what does it do? It says, I can't cope. So it goes down. The cell starts dying off. They have become too dysfunctional. Now, this is the time you will go back here, and then your GP will tell you, or your doctor will tell you, oh, unfortunately, you have type 2 diabetes. You're diabetic. But was it climbing slowly? Yes. Why did we not pick it up? Because all this time we were testing the glucose, and the glucose was remaining in the normal range until it's no longer normal. That is now where you have a diagnosis. So just because you went to your doctor and they told you that your glucose is normal, understand that that does not mean that you don't have insulin resistance. You could still have insulin resistance despite the fact that your glucose is saying normal. Why? Because normal is not the same as healthy. Here, I've given you the ranges. If you HB1C is the sugar test that you get done. It shows the sugar levels in the body for the last 3 months. And that's why they won't repeat it. If you've had it done, they won't repeat it until after another 3 months, because it won't show them any different. Then you need to wait after 3 months. Here you have the healthy. So healthy is below 5.4. In the UK, that's below 36, because I think we use the millimoles. If you are in the normal, this is the range where you still they'll be telling you are normal, because for them, this whole range from 5.7 all the way up to 6.5, they'll be telling you you're normal. But actually, you've been gradually creeping up in the insulin resistance scale. And then when you get past 6.5, that's when they tell you, oh, now you're diabetic, we have to put you on medication. And sometimes they learn you're diabetic too late, that even they will put you straight on insulin before they won't even have the opportunity to start the other medications, metformin and gliclazide. They will go straight to the insulin. But then giving somebody who has already high insulin and giving them insulin is like giving an alcoholic a glass of wine so they can feel better. Will they feel better? No. And these are the numbers for fasting glucose. If you want to do a fasting glucose, these will be the numbers. And if you want to do an oral glucose tolerance test, the one that I said about the 2 hours, is this one. So you can decide. This one would give you a better understanding, because without testing the insulin, this would be the second best, because it's showing you what your bloods are doing when you're fasted, and it's showing you what your bloods are doing after you consume a sugary food, which will give you a good indication. Now, there is something we say that you can have one condition that has many causes, or you can have one cause that causes many conditions. And insulin resistance is so. It is one cause and it causes many diseases. And I'll give you an example. The depression, when you go to the psychiatrist, they'll tell you that, oh, you are not producing enough serotonin, So we'll give you the SSRIs to bring up the antidepressants to bring up your serotonin levels. But actually, depression can be caused by overuse of antibiotics. This is very, very common in Kenya. You just go to the chemist and they just give you antibiotics. You keep taking the antibiotics, they damage your gut, your microbiome. And so now you don't produce enough serotonin. Why? Because you have a damaged gut. If you're deficient on omega-3, that can cause you to become depressed because your brain is 60% omega-3 fat. So if you are lacking that, then you can become depressed. If you have a low thyroid function, that can cause you to feel depressed. If you have vitamin D deficiency, that can cause depression. If you have insulin resistance or prediabetes, that can cause you to become depressed. So as you can see, this is one problem, many causes. But here, let's look at inflammation. Inflammation is one cause. It can cause you to have arthritis. It can cause you to have depression. It can cause you to have heart disease. It can cause you to have diabetes. It can cause you to have cancer. One cause, many conditions. One condition, many causes. So let me show you the one for insulin resistance. So this is insulin resistance. If you are insulin resistant, you are at risk of having a stroke. Remember I showed you a lot of us, Black people, have high risk of stroke, much more than other communities. Why? Because we are insulin resistant. Heart disease. I said to you, we just buried a lady as a result of heart disease. She was in her 40s. Insulin resistance. Obesity, insulin resistance. Migraines, dementia. Dementia is now sometimes called insulin resistance of the brain, and Alzheimer's. And sometimes they call it type 3 diabetes. Why? Because diabetes is a disease of insulin resistance. Obesity, even in children. I showed you the diagram about how much the children are gaining so much weight by the time between the years of reception and the years of year 6. So much weight they have gained. Why? Because of insulin resistance. Arthritis, don't let anybody lie to you that arthritis is wear and tear. It is not wear and tear. It is insulin resistance and inflammation in those joints. How arthritis is caused by insulin resistance? Because the cells that produce the fluid that you need to lubricate your joints, they need energy. If they can't get energy, they don't produce that fluid that lubricates. And that's where the friction comes in and destroys the actual joint tissue, the cartilage. It gets destroyed because they are not getting the energy they need to produce the fluid that is required to lubricate your joints. So is arthritis wear and tear? Not quite, because the wear and tear is coming from where? The lack of that fluid. And the lack of fluid is coming from what? Insulin resistance. If you are a man and you have issues with erectile dysfunction, because erectile dysfunction comes as a result of issues with the blood flow to the organ, right? And that's why you don't get the erection. So, or if you're a woman here and your husband has an issue with erectile dysfunction, the problem is that they have insulin resistance. Sarcopenia, where you lose your muscle mass, because now you lose the muscle mass. And what happens is, as you lose the muscle mass, that space is occupied by fat. Sarcopenia, that's what happens. So you're losing the actual thing that you need to utilize the energy, and that is the muscle. High blood pressure, if you have high blood pressure, if you have type 2 diabetes, these are all diseases of insulin resistance. So one cause, many conditions. So if you have insulin resistance, you're at risk of all these diseases and cancer. That it includes the cancer as well. Cancer should be on here. Cancer is a metabolic disease. It should be on here. I think that's a writing mistake, because there's osteoarthritis here. This was supposed to be cancer. Cancer is a metabolic disease. So if you have poor metabolic health because of insulin resistance, then you are also at risk of cancer. How would you know that you're insulin resistant? What are the symptoms? One, most people will tend to be overweight. However, remember I showed you that diagram. You don't have to be overweight to be insulin resistant. People will have, the obese or overweight people will have trouble losing weight. They will have a large appetite. They will tend to have cravings, like especially sweets after meals. They are eating, but they're still having those insatiable hunger, insatiable cravings. And when they eat the sweet things, it doesn't relieve the cravings. They're feeling tired more tired after meals. That's when you have that ugali and all you want to do is have a nap. Frequent thirst and urge to urinate. Why? Because insulin causes you to hang on to the water and hold on to the water. But then the water now needed for the function of the body is now no longer available because it's holding it into the cells. That's why you start getting people having issues with like swollen limbs, swollen legs, swollen hands, but actually they can't explain why they're swollen. Hormonal problems like polycystic ovarian syndrome, estrogen dominance comes as a result of insulin resistance. So a lot of endometriosis and a lot of fibroids. Right now, like 1 in 2 women have fibroids. Why? Insulin resistance combined with estrogen dominance. Women, they're having a lot of estrogen dominance and testosterone dominance, and the men are becoming estrogen dominant. So now you start finding a man, he has a big belly and he has man boobs. He's losing hair, where normally men were quite hairy. You find now a lot of men are not as hairy as they used to. Why? Why did they stop being that hairy? Because they have more estrogen than they do testosterone. Testosterone makes you grow hair. And the women are growing hair where they don't want hair, in their chins and their faces and places that women should not be having hair. They're growing hair. Why? Because they have become testosterone dominant as a result of being insulin resistant. We said when one system gets out of hand, it throws everything else. When one hormone gets out of hand, it has an impact on all your other hormones. Men have low testosterone, so they're having issues with sexual function and libido. And women, not actually women, men and women having acne, skin tags, skin pigmentation changes. All these things are signs. So if you have lots of skin tags, they tend to be like in the neck or places where you have creases or folds in the body. You get that. The skin pigmentation changes. You can see it mostly like in the back of the neck as well, where they have like almost like darker lines. That's the skin pigmentation we're talking about. If you have those symptoms, those are symptoms of insulin resistance. If you have high blood pressure or you have high triglycerides, those are symptoms of insulin resistance. If your insulin goes up, your inflammation levels go up. In women, testosterone goes up, hence they're growing hair where they don't want hair. The detoxification of the body goes down, so your liver pathways go down. Your blood pressure increases because your body has now become resistant to the insulin. So what happens? Because we said insulin dilates the blood vessels. The dilation is not happening, so the blood pressure is increasing. The cholesterol goes up, and that's why your triglycerides go up. Your neurotransmitters go down, and that's why you start having issues with depressive episodes. Oxidative stress goes up. Now you start having other issues with more risk of diseases. And for men, estrogen goes up, so they start having the man boobs, losing hair, having female-like features. Because a man should not be having any man boobs. If you have insulin resistance in your brain, because remember, any cell of your body can become insulin resistant. Your body is about, your brain weighs about 2% of your body weight. And it consumes 20% of the energy that your body produces. 25% of cholesterol is in your brain. And 60% of the brain is fat, DHA fat. Your brain keeps developing until you're in your late 40s, and actually it doesn't stop because there is neurogenesis where your body creates new connections. That's why when we say practice makes progress, every time you practice something, say for example a skill like say a musical instrument, yeah, like my son plays violin, so I was getting him to practice this morning, and I keep reminding him practice makes progress. Why? Because every time he practices doing the violin, wherever playing the violin, that the channels get stronger and stronger and stronger in the body, and that's why you get to a place of mastery. But it takes what, 10,000 hours for mastery. So you have to keep practicing to get the mastery. But that means that your brain is malleable. It changes based on what you're doing. So what you're doing every day will have an impact on it. If you have insulin resistance in your brain because now you're not getting the oxygen, your brain does not have a reserve for energy. So if you have insulin resistance in your brain, you start having a foggy brain, you start having issues with memory, you start having issues with processing information, you start having issues with remembering things. You go into a room and you can't even remember what it is that you came to do in there. You go to talk to someone, you can't remember what it is that you needed to talk to them about. Why? Because your brain does not have the energy to do the day-to-day processing. And as you can imagine, 20% of your body energy is used by your brain. So if your brain has low insulin sensitivity, you will struggle with functioning in every way because your brain sends all the commands to every part of your body. If they don't have the energy to send the commands, you won't be able to function. You'll be bedridden. So if when you have less brain sensitivity, you get less insulin uptake, glucose uptake, you get less energy, and you get a compromised brain function. Now, if you have clients who are depending on you to work out their case in their favor, so you need to be creative, you need to be sharp, you need to be productive, you need to really have really high thinking capacity and high processing of information, and your brain is letting you down, will you be able to deliver to your clients? No. If you have an unhealthy brain, you'll experience sadness, anxiety, fear, panic, brain fog, poor focus, addictions, domestic violence, incarceration, loneliness. I don't know what kind of law firms you're in. So if you are in law firms that you're defending people who have been like, they're accused of these kind of things, domestic violence, incarcerations, violence, it's something to think about. Is it that this person has issues with their brain, they're insulin resistant, that is causing them to end up behaving like this? Where somebody who has an insulin sensitive brain has happiness and joy and energy and resilience and focus and longevity. They have good relationships. They perform well in school, at work. They have successes in their businesses. They are getting promoted. They have good wealth management, and they're very creative. And I think in your jobs and the job that you do, you really need to be very creative. If you have an issue with your brain, it will be linked to your gut. If you have inflammation in your gut, you will have, if you have we call it a leaky gut. A leaky gut leads to a leaky brain. A leaky brain is inflamed and leads to all those symptoms that we've just talked about. So the food you eat will highly impact your gut and the gut inflammation, and that will highly impact your brain and your brain processing, and it will affect everything that you do every day. So what's the goal? The goal is to achieve metabolic health. And by metabolic health, we mean that you become insulin sensitive, you control systemic inflammation. So you have what we call acute inflammation, where you get the stimulus, you get the immune helper cells come and do the job of healing. The healing happens, the end of stimulus, job done, they move out. When you think about how your office is cleaned, the cleaner comes in, does the cleaning and goes away. But your cleaner doesn't come and stay there the whole day cleaning the whole day, because then there's no work that can be done because the cleaner is busy cleaning. So it's exactly the same thing. They come, they clean, and then they go. You come and sit and do the work and use the office, the space, right? If you have chronic inflammation, it's like a leak that is just not ending. And or if you have a leak in your house, the whole house was flooded, it will destroy not only the area where it is, but you destroy everything, including all your property inside that property, you know, like your chairs, your TVs, your fridge, your everything, your electricals, your bed and everything. And if you have flooding, there's things that you'll be able to dry out. Once you drain out, there are things you can dry out and they will still be okay, and there are things that cannot be fixed, they will have to be replaced. And that is assuming that they are replaceable, because in your body, it's not everything that is replaceable. So always think of inflammation in that perspective. Do I really want to permit something that could end up destroying cells and organs that I will never be able to get a replacement, and therefore they will forever affect my quality of life? Success in life is a marathon with a bunch of sprints in between. The sprints, you want those sprints to be what we call acute inflammation, but you don't want them you don't want the sprints to become the marathon. The marathon is the life, is your healthy life. The life that is going to be equal to your lifespan, the health span that is going to be equal to your lifespan. So the question for you all, and you can type in the chat, is where do you want to be? Do you want to live a life full of energy? Do you want to live a life full of productivity and creativity? Do you want to be able to make money? Because if you can serve your clients well, then obviously you get more referrals, and more referrals equals more money. Do you want to be able to go home and be able to spend time with your family and do the things that you'd want to do, and you're not feeling fatigued and run down? Do you want to live a lifestyle that makes it so much easier? It's almost automatic. Do you want to live a healthy life that equals your lifespan? So if you live to 100 years, you have 100 years of good health. You know, when I think back to our grandparents, they used to live to over 100 and they never used to have diseases. They just go to sleep, and then in the morning you wake up, you find they have they've transited to heaven, right? Because my mission is to make it to heaven, so I will say to heaven. So it's looking at life from that perspective. Where do you want to be? Do you want to live a life at ease, or do you want to live with dis-ease? The choice is yours. Now, I did say I have clients. How do I help my clients to live at ease and not with dis-ease? I have this system. The solution is called health. H for balancing all the hormones, because your body works on hormones and enzymes. So if one hormone, like we've talked about one hormone, insulin today, but it impacts every other hormone in your body. We've talked about cortisol, the stress hormone. It impacts every other hormone in the body. So we balance all your hormones. We have an empowered nutrition, because now you will eat and make your food with understanding. Every time you put that food on a plate, you will have an understanding of exactly what you want to achieve with that meal and what it is going to do in your body. So you have empowered nutrition. You will achieve mental wellness, because when you balance the hormones and you balance the nutrition and you balance the lifestyle, when you add the lifestyle strategies that we add, you not only get longevity, but you also get mental wellness, mental clarity, insulin sensitivity in your brain, which makes you be productive. And we also focus on targeted metabolic support, where now we are working on your health at cell level. So it's inside out, not outside in. We do health planning, we do health monitoring, and we do feedback, constant feedback. The program aims to achieve 6 objectives. 1, to give you a sustainable mindset, because every battle is won in the mind. If you're not winning in your mind, you're not winning anywhere. To give you a sustainable body that you want and deserve. But that body doesn't just come because you can't wish it in. You have to work on it. And this is the part that I find a lot of people are not willing to do. They don't want to do the work. They want the glory, but they don't want the story of glory. to give you the skills. Because if you know how to drive a car, but never get access to a car, what good is that skill? If you have a car and can't drive, what good is your car? You need the car, and you need the car, and you need the driving skills. So you need the tools and you need the skills to be able to achieve this. But you also need habits, healthy habits. Healthy habits are what makes this become effortless, because they become like the way you wake up in the morning, you brush your teeth. Nobody, your husband or your wife or your children, nobody ever have to persuade you, please brush your teeth. It is autopilot. You wake up, you go, you brush your teeth. It is autopilot. You do it in the morning, you do it before you go to bed. It's a habit. So you can form habits, and they become such an easy thing for you to do these things. And because they are now habits, you don't have to think about them. It's just who you are, what you do. This is how you live your life. And we also focus on your spirit, because we are spirit beings, spirit, body, spirit, mind. So you can't just work on the body and the mind and leave the spirit aside. We have to combine the spirit. So this is what I do for my clients. This is what I do, not just, and my clients can be individuals, they can be groups, and they can also be corporate. So I do provide occupational health services to corporate, and I still follow this same format because this is exactly what they need. There's a little bit more when occupational health is concerned, because there's then things like the ergonomics, the health and safety side of things. There is the occupational related illnesses, the musculoskeletal issues, and of course, me being a physio for over 15 years, that puts me in a very good position, and I have done occupational health roles before, so I'm very well versed with that. So I do provide occupational health services. The other thing that I have started doing recently is I am doing a membership for people who just want to learn about food. And this is where we meet every Sunday for an hour. We talk about food, we learn about food, A to Z of food, everything you ever need to know about food, you will learn about it here. But this is a membership. It's about 5K Kenyan shillings or 25 pounds UK pounds. So it's one of those things that, should anybody be willing, I'm happy, you can talk to me and we can get you in and you can start learning about food. And now this is my social handle media. That's my phone number. If you would like to talk to me about an individual issue, or for you or your family member, that's my number. You can book a free consultation with me. You don't have to pay for it. And then we can have a further discussion about how we can work together to make your lifespan equal your health span at ease and not with dis-ease. Yeah, Patricia says she wants to live a life at ease and not with dis-ease. Absolutely. Yes, quality of life for Joanne is very important. Elizabeth has enjoyed the session. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you. Any questions? Please do ask questions. I like questions.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Njogu Associates and Eunice. My question is in connection with the skin tags.
Yes.
I realize I have skin tags, especially around my neck and the upper body. And I saw like a nutritionist.
Yes.
And he told me I may have an issue with insulin resistance. So I'm what? Okay, I'm 59 years old. My weight is 66. I'm 5'8". So my weight is okay. But now I don't know about the skin tags. I'm a bit worried because after what you've taught us, it looks like I have an issue with my insulin. Please shed some light. Thank you.
Yes. So you fall, that maybe I can reshare the slide just for emphasis. Here, normal weight. The people who have normal weight, but from a metabolic standpoint, they are not healthy in the form of insulin, like you're not insulin sensitive, you have insulin resistance, despite the fact that we would consider you to be in normal weight. You're not overweight, you're not obese, you're just normal weight. But this is what I mean. A lot of people only look at their health from the perspective of outside in. So what dress size am I? What dress size do I wear? How big am I? Those are the things that they look at. They don't look at what is actually happening at cell level. And for you, that is what you need to look at, the insulin resistance. Insulin resistance can be caused by various things, such as stress. So are you chronically stressed? Do you have chronic inflammation? Have you had a blood test that checks your chronic inflammation? You can get something like your CRP. Yeah, you can have other blood tests that will show you. You can also have fasting glucose, but the best one for you would be the oral glucose tolerance test that would show you how your body is dealing with the sugar, which will tell you how the insulin is, or whether you're insulin resistant or not. There is an insulin test you can get done, but I'm not sure how easily accessible it is in Kenya. There is the HOMA IR. Yeah, if you want, I can give you more names for the insulin resistance. And Patricia, if you would like, we can do a free consultation and we can talk about it in depth, because health is very individual. I try not to go too much into specifics for someone when we're in a group, because health is very, very individual. So that's something that we can do.
Thank you very much.
It's something that you do need to work on, because like you've seen, the insulin resistance is now putting you at risk of all these other diseases, including cancer.
Wow, thank you so much. I'll consult you. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you. Thank you for asking the question. Elizabeth.
All right. Thank you for that insightful session. I've learned a lot. Maybe you can talk about what kind of foods should we adopt in our meals so that we keep off insulin resistance, because I think most of us, the habits that you have said, a lot of us probably are snacking a lot, taking junk food. You can advise on the kind of diet.
Okay. Can I do a whiteboard? Because I think it might be easier to just draw for you. So this is a plate. Half of your plate, this should be your veggies. And they should be colorful, right? So think about the rainbow. You should have something red, something blue, something orange, something green, something purple, something brown, something black. They're usually 9. What am I missing? White. And what other color have I missed? Joanne?
Orange.
Orange, thank you. An orange, thank you, right? So when you look at your plate, you need to eat those colors in a day. So make sure you hit something in that color, from the food you eat in the morning to the food you eat in the evening. And I hope you're not eating past 8 p.m., please. You should not be eating 3 hours before your bed. 3 hours before your bed. Don't eat anything. If you know you go to bed at 10, count 3 hours forward, and that's the last cutoff of the last time you should be eating. And I know because I am Kenyan, a lot of us tend to eat at 9 whilst we're watching the 9 o'clock news. And then we finish the news and we go to bed. So we are eating at 9, we're going to bed at 10. That is one of the problems, right? We're eating too late before bed. So we want to try and eat a bit early. And I know it's easier said than done because we get home late and all that, but this is now where the planning comes in. So if it means that you might end up having your food before you leave your office and going home, sometimes it might be that. But then, of course, that takes away the family eating together aspect. So this is where the planning really comes in, and it's all individualized. You have to individualize it. There's nothing that you can do the same as somebody else. It has to be individual to you and your family. Now, back to the plate. So when we look at your plate, you should have your protein. You should be eating 1 gram of protein per kg of your body weight. So Patricia, you said you're 69 kg. You should be eating 69 grams of protein per day, right? So I'll give you an example. That 100 grams of beef gives you 36 grams of protein. So Patricia, that would bring you over half of your limit. 1 tin of tuna, actually tuna is also high in protein, but I'm not a big fan of tuna because it contains a lot of mercury. Let's say 1 tin of salmon contains 40 grams of protein. So if you ate 40 grams and you ate 36 grams, that already hits Patricia's protein requirement for that day. By the way, 1 gram is on the minimum, right? If you are overweight, you want to aim for your target weight. That's what you want to aim for. Because sometimes if you say for example, if you weigh 150 kgs 150 grams can be a bit of an uphill task to aim for. But if you're aiming to lose the weight and get to, say, target weight of something like, we'll go for Patricia's one because it's easy, 69 kg, right? Then you would be targeting that. Ideally, you want to target, they say 1 gram per half of your weight in pounds, but I really can't get my head around pounds and stones, so I prefer to stick to the kgs because it's what I've always grown up with, and I know kgs. Stones and pounds, they confuse me, so let's stick to kgs. So ideally should be 1.5 to 2 grams, but a lot of people are not even hitting the 1 gram, so I try not to shoot too high because it puts them off before they can even, like, they can't run before they've learned how to crawl. So this is the crawling. The 1 gram is the crawling level. As you increase, then it goes up. As you age, you need more because you digest it poorly because you produce less stomach acid. So your age also determines how much you need. This is why I said it has to be personalized to you. Then here you want to have your carbs, but you also want to have your fat, right? So this one you divide in two. You want to have your fat and you want to have your carbs. So you having a food where this is all ugali, na kasukuma ni yaka, na kanyama ni yaka, na kaavo ni yaka, that doesn't work, right? So I don't know if there's anybody that doesn't hear Swahili. I see Sandra Locke. I'm not sure if she can hear Swahili. This should not be like rice and a chicken, and you have few veggies here. It should be the opposite. So if you want to keep your insulin low, then you do that. The other thing to do is between your breakfast and your lunch and your dinner, there has to be 4 hours in between this time. So that means no snacking. Stop the snacking. Those mandazis, that tea, the break tea, the afternoon samosas, those are the things you need to cross out. No snacking. 4 hours in between. So this will keep your insulin low because you only spike the insulin here, and the insulin takes about 2 hours to come down. Depends with how much, the quantity of carbohydrates you have eaten. Carbohydrate is the thing that raises your insulin. This is what happens with, this is hours in time, and this is the food, like the level of insulin. Fat doesn't have any impact on your insulin. Protein has a little bit of it. Carbohydrates have that. So your carbohydrates are the thing that are spiking your insulin. So having less carbohydrate means that. And then the order with which you eat your food, you start with your protein, your vegetables, and then you finish with your carbohydrates. That will reduce how high this will go. So there's things you can do, but how you eat will determine. So I hope, Elizabeth, I've answered your question.
Yes, you answered my question. Now, the only challenge is the practicality of measuring the grams for the servings, because I don't know whether most of us are even have the means to do that.
So that's why you need to come to my class on Sunday, because I'll teach you all that. It's
Okay.
a lot. It's a lot. Nutrition is a lot, right? There is a lot to learn. There is a lot. I can't give you all of it in a 2 hours webinar. There's like a lot. Like Joan is my client. She doesn't mind me saying that. I don't like shortcuts. I'm very comprehensive. So when I teach you something, I want you to learn it that you never have to go and look for the same information again ever anywhere else. So I want you to really understand. I don't prescribe. I don't give people meal plans. I teach you. We sit down together and we do a meal plan together that is specific to your family, because health is individual. The needs of your family are individual. There's different people, age groups in your family. Like my family, there's me, there's my husband, there is my 6-year-old, there's my 4-year-old. Now, if your family only has people who are over 18, your needs, your nutritional needs are very different from my family's nutritional needs. So we can't like put it in one box. It has to be personalized, it has to be individual. So you have to learn it, you have to do it with understanding, so that I teach you how to do it so that you don't ever need to keep me as your crutch. You can be able to walk without a crutch. That's the goal of a coach. A coach shouldn't be able to help you to stay with them forever. It should be about empowering you to be able to do life well with that knowledge that you have learned. Remember, knowledge is not power. It is only potential power. It only becomes power the moment you put it into practice. So my program is not a learning program, it's a doing program, because we want it to become power, not potential power. It's not shelf development where you buy the books and put them on the shelf. It's self-development. You do the work, and doing the work works.
Yeah, first and foremost, I just want to thank, I don't know, the facilitators of this session for having this done. And I just wanted to pop in because Eunice again has been my coaching client, and it's interesting just watching you thrive and really do what God put you here to do. And as I was looking around the room or imagining, I think you mentioned that this is a lawyer's forum, didn't you?
Yes.
I'm a coach myself, and I was thinking, and I know one of my other clients here, Juliana, she's here. I was thinking to myself that we give so much credence to our professionalism. Oh, I'm a lawyer. Oh, I'm a coach. Oh, I'm a this, right?
Yeah.
And the thing that truly matters, there are two things, and what we are here for is the health aspect. That your health is your wealth. What good am I as a coach, as a mentor, as a teacher, as a guide if I'm sick? I was I was saying this to my clients not too long ago. I was telling them that I have had so many shifts in my mindset, especially when it's come to health, because you can have everything. You can have a solid, fully booked rota. You could have all manner of clients signing up for your things, signing up, and as you said, but at the end of the day, if you don't have your health, you lose it all. And when you are going through this, Eunice, and I'm going to charge it on you, just because I thought about it when you were teaching today, it was such a good refresher, is perhaps you should even consider having an alumni version of what you teach, because I was like, I know these things, but some of them have slipped my mind, memory loss, and then of course old habits again die hard when you get out of the loop, or say you said something very that I 100% agree. It's good to teach your clients to be self-sufficient, that they're not necessarily a crutch, but even with time, people need reminders. They need that constant, not constant, like just refreshers. Come back, let's go back to, let's see where you're at. Let's catch up with this. So anybody who is on the fence and asking themselves, should I do this for me? What I like about Eunice is, and I think the word you use, you call yourself a sustainable life strategy, sustainable health strategist or something like that. Is that the title? That's all my picture is here. That's me, ladies.
I just wanted
So
to show you the kind of
interesting.
results she got.
Yeah, that's me. That's Coach Joanne. Yeah. So that said, and that's the thing, the proof is in the pudding. I always say the proof is there. This is the evidence. And thank you for bringing it. I need to screenshot this, Eunice, for my stories. But yes, please, if you're asking yourself who to work with, the word she uses is the sustainability for me is what counts, because you don't want to come and just do something and then after that you don't even know how to manage it, or you go back to your old habits. But she helps you in a sustainable manner. Eunice is very compassionate, she's very kind, but she's also firm. She's going to put her foot down, and again, you want that sort of person to make sure that you get the results that you need, because you have, you probably have kids, you probably have a partner, you have people counting on you. What good are you if your health is not at the top, is not given top priority? So I just wanted to say that before I jump out. So thanks, Eunice, and thanks for the conveners of this workshop. I'm so grateful that it came at a time that I was available to hop in and join you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanne. And you guys can see this is Joanne's results. I share them because she doesn't mind. These are the results. She's dropped more than 25 kilos in a year without any diet, just by changing lifestyle, sustainable, healthy habits. That's it. And you can see she's serving her clients even far better, because now she has less things to worry about as far as health is concerned. Yes.
By the way, Eunice, sorry, ladies, Eunice doesn't like us talking about our health, personal health, but I can say really quickly, just share really quickly. But it's a recorded call, so I'm not. No, it's okay. I'll leave that bit because I just realized that it's been recorded, so that's fine. It's okay. But just know that I recently got a health results that I was pleased with. That's all.
Amazing. So those are the measures. Those are the health planning. So now me and Joanne, I was even asking her whilst we were waiting for people to join when she's free, so we can do a catch up, so that we can look, because I still keep the goals that we did, and I still go back, and my job is to make sure that by the end she has achieved every goal that we set up, and she has smashed them. She has really smashed them. So yeah, amazing. So I look forward to that catch up, Joanne.
Absolutely. I want to put my hand down. I don't know how to. If someone can lower it for me, please.
Okay. Thank you so much, Eunice. Just blowing. I'm like, oh my God, I think I needed this. I needed some things to be rubber stamped. People like us who are sweet tooth. Yeah, we have been called out quite a bit. And I was just asking myself, is it that, how do you reduce the gut? Because I've heard you talk about the gut that even affects the brain. And, we know sugars, because a time I was just reading about the gut, how to lower your gut and how sugars can reduce your brain retention and things like that. I was like, okay, so what measures? I don't need to take medicine. I agree. What am I supposed to do, like, to reduce the gut, the sweet tooth, and yeah, the snacking bit of it?
Well, first of all, the reason you want to snack is because of the type of food you're eating and the impact it's having on your hormones. When you eat something that is sugary, two things happen. One, insulin goes up. And when insulin goes up and keeps going up, insulin then has an impact on another hormone called leptin. Leptin is the hormone that tells your body you are full, you need to stop eating, and you need to get up and become active. So when you now become leptin resistant, leptin works against the hunger hormone, because leptin is a satiety hormone. Ghrelin is a hunger hormone that is produced by your gut, by your stomach. So ghrelin will go up when your body notices that you don't have a lot of energy. Ghrelin will go up to stimulate hunger, to tell you that, hey, you need to eat something, we need some energy here. But when leptin is not going down, when leptin is not going up, to tell ghrelin to come down, because it's a seesaw. So when this one is staying up, this one is affected. So leptin is not going up. So ghrelin is winning. So you are just hungry all the time. So all you want to do is eat, eat, eat. It's called insatiable hunger. You've eaten a full meal, but you just feel like a craving. There's a craving that just keeps finding you. It's finding you. Why? Because of that. Number two, if you ate something that is sugary, sugar stimulates your dopamine receptors. Dopamine receptors are similar to if you took cocaine or heroin. The places in your brain that they activate is the same place that sugar will activate. Sugar is a drug, by the way, if you don't know. And it's not just about the sugar you put in your tea. It is the sugar that the food industry put in your food without you knowing. And then guess what they did? They covered it with the salt. So you eat the food, it tastes salty, so you don't think there's any sugar in it, but your vagus nerve picks out the sugar, sends a message to your dopamine receptors, sugar is coming. Dopamine is like, oh, yes, sugar. But guess what? When it keeps doing that all the time, it gets fed up, because remember, your body doesn't like too much or too little. So what they decide to do is they dampen down. So the receptors, they go off. So now you need even a higher amount of sugar to get the same yay that you used to get the first time. So now you are not only are you eating constantly, because you need to increase the amount to get the same heat.
Yeah.
Now the insulin is also going higher, because the more sugar, the more the insulin. Now it becomes a vicious cycle that you can't get out of. So now your gut is dependent on the food you eat. Remember that vegetable that I was talking about, the rainbow?
Yeah.
The more you eat the rainbow, a variety of fruits and vegetables, the more you populate your microbiome in your gut. So the gut is directly linked to your lifestyle and the food you eat. If you're very stressed, your gut listens to your brain. The moment you start having negative thoughts and a lot of stressful thoughts in your brain, your microbiome changes and becomes a negative microbiome that is it affects your health. 80% of your immune system is in your gut. So your lifestyle, the sleep you're sleeping or not, the food you're eating or not, the stress you're managing or not, will directly impact your gut. That's why I said to us, it is not just about one thing, it is about everything. If your liver is not working well, it will impact your gut. Why? The liver and the gut work together to detoxify your body. So if you're not detoxifying, if you're not having a minimum of 2 bowel motions in a day, there's a problem.
2.
Minimum 2. Minimum. It could go up to 4 or 5.
So if it's less, it's alarming.
Yes. Because if you are eating all these many times you are eating, but you're only doing it once, where is it going? It's stuck there in the system. It's making you inflamed. Because it's a toxin. It needs to be eliminated out. You're not what you eat. You're what you eat, absorb, digest, absorb, and eliminate. Because people say, oh, you're what you eat. Yes, that is only part of the truth. The whole truth is that you're not just what you eat, you're what you eat, what you digest, what you absorb, and what you eliminate.
Yeah,
it's a process. It's not one thing. We love shortcuts. That's our problem. We love shortcuts. Hey.
Yeah,
we just want to only focus on one thing only. We want the glory, but not the story of glory. That's it.
Yeah, I think I will really need the Sunday class so that I can know how to measure those grams and how to change the whole diet. But thank you so much for joining. I think this was such a good afternoon to learn so many things.